The year was 2147, and Earth had finally taken its first steps into the vast unknown of space. Humanity's dreams of exploring the stars were no longer just science fiction, they were reality. The United Nations Space Defense Force, UNSD, HFY, launched EOS, a state-of-the-art colony ship to explore nearby star systems. After years in deep space, EOS returned with exciting news. It had discovered an alien artifact orbiting Proxima Centauri. The object pulsed with strange energy, unlike anything scientists had ever seen. It was a discovery that promised untold knowledge about the universe. Haewon Kim, a young astrophysicist from Seoul, South Korea, was one of the lead researchers assigned to study the artifact. She spent countless hours analyzing its structure and energy patterns, trying to understand its purpose. Haewon was driven by curiosity and a deep desire to uncover the secrets of the cosmos. For her, this artifact represented hope, a chance for humanity to take its place among the stars. But little did she know this discovery would bring danger instead of enlightenment. One quiet evening, as Haewon sat in her lab surrounded by glowing screens and humming machines, alarms suddenly blared across the facility. At first she thought it was a technical malfunction or a drill, but when she looked out the window her heart sank. In the night sky, dozens of massive ships loomed ominously over Earth. They were unlike anything humanity had ever built, sleek, angular, and bristling. With weapons, the ships emitted a low hum that seemed to vibrate through the air itself. Panic spread quickly. News outlets around the world reported the arrival of these mysterious vessels. People gathered in streets and parks, staring up at the sky in awe and fear. Governments scrambled to respond, but no one knew what these aliens wanted, or how to fight them if necessary. Communication attempts went unanswered. For hours, the ships simply hovered there, silent and menacing. Finally, a message came. Deep, cold voice echoed across every communication channel on Earth. "This is Kyle Draxus, Supreme Commander of the Veyrathi Dominion," the voice announced. The face of an alien appeared on screens worldwide, a tall, reptilian creature with piercing yellow eyes and sharp, angular features. His expression was devoid of emotion, his tone commanding and unyielding. "Your species has trespassed upon territory claimed by the Veyrathi. You have 24 hours to surrender unconditionally or face annihilation." The words sent shockwaves through humanity. Surrender? To beings who had just arrived without warning? Many people refused to believe it. How could such advanced creatures demand submission so brazenly? Others argued that resistance was futile. The Veyrathi ships were clearly far more powerful than anything Earth possessed. Fear gripped nations as leaders debated their next move. Haewon felt a mix of anger and frustration. She couldn't stand idly by while others decided Earth's fate. Her thoughts turned to Jinho Park, a childhood friend and now a decorated pilot in the UNSD. Jinho had always been brave and resourceful, qualities Haewon admired deeply. If anyone could help turn the tide, it was him. She contacted Jinho immediately. "We can't just give up," she said urgently when he answered. "There has to be a way to fight back." Jinho listened carefully, his mind racing. He had seen the Veyrathi ships firsthand during reconnaissance flights earlier that day. Their technology was indeed superior, but he noticed something odd. Their movements were precise, almost mechanical. "They rely on patterns," Jinho mused aloud. "If we can disrupt those patterns somehow." Haewon's eyes lit up. "That's it. They're shields. They're controlled by algorithms. We might be able to exploit that." She explained her idea. Using Earth's outdated AI systems, they could create chaotic programs designed to overload the Veyrathi defenses. It was a long shot, but it was better than doing nothing. Jinho agreed to present the plan to his superiors, though he knew convincing them wouldn't be easy. Military leaders were divided, some advocating surrender while others pushed for desperate measures. President Yoon Ji-yoon of South Korea emerged as a vocal supporter of resistance. In a televised address, she reminded the world of humanity's resilience throughout history. "We have faced extinction before," she declared passionately, "and we will not bow today." Inspired by her words, global support for resistance grew stronger. Scientists, engineers, and soldiers worked tirelessly to prepare for battle. Meanwhile, Haewon dove headfirst into developing the algorithm. She barely slept, fueled by coffee and sheer determination. Her team included Soo-Jin Lee, a brilliant hacker known for her ability to crack even the toughest codes. Together, They pored over data, testing and refining their program until it was ready. As the clock ticked closer to the deadline, tension mounted. Families huddled together, praying for a miracle. Soldiers stood guard, preparing for the worst. And high above, the Veirathi fleet remained eerily still, waiting for Earth's response. Haywan glanced at the countdown timer on her computer screen. 24 hours had passed, and the moment of truth was here. Either her plan would work, or humanity would face unimaginable consequences. Despite the fear gnawing at her stomach, she felt a spark of hope. Humans had always found ways to adapt, to survive against all odds. Why should this time be any different? In the distance, the first flashes of light signaled the start of the conflict. Explosions lit up the sky as Earth's forces engaged the invaders. Haywan clenched her fists, silently willing her program to hold up under pressure. This wasn't just about winning. It was about proving that humanity deserved a place among the stars. For now, all she could do was wait and watch as the battle unfolded. But deep down, she believed in one thing. Earth would not go down without a fight. The battle had begun, and Earth's skies were ablaze with streaks of light as missiles and energy beams crisscrossed the atmosphere. The Veirathi fleet unleashed its devastating firepower, targeting cities, military bases, and communication hubs. Buildings crumbled into rubble, fires raged uncontrollably, and panic spread like wildfire among civilians. Despite their best efforts, humanity's defenses seemed woefully inadequate against the invaders' superior technology. It was clear that Earth couldn't win this war through brute force alone. Jinho Park sat in the cockpit of his fighter, Jet, gripping the controls tightly as he led a squadron of UNSD pilots on a desperate mission. Their objective was simple yet dangerous: gather intelligence on the Veirathi mothership, the largest vessel in the enemy fleet. If they could understand how the aliens operated, perhaps Haywan Kim's algorithm stood a chance of working. But getting close enough to study the ship meant flying straight into enemy territory and surviving long enough to return. As Jinho's squadron approached the mothership, they encountered swarms of smaller Veirathi drones patrolling the area. These machines moved with eerie precision, firing laser-like weapons that could cut through steel like paper. "Stay sharp," Jinho warned over the comms. "Stick to the plan." His voice was calm but firm, masking the fear bubbling beneath the surface. He knew this mission could very well be his last. One by one, the drones locked onto their targets, forcing Jinho and his team to perform evasive maneuvers. The pilots twisted and turned their jets, dodging blasts while trying to stay within range of the mothership. Sweat dripped down Jinho's forehead as he narrowly avoided a direct hit. "We're almost there," he muttered under his breath. "Just a little farther." Back on Earth, Haywan worked feverishly in her lab, monitoring the data streaming in from Jinho's sensors. Her computer screens flickered with images of the mothership's exterior, its sleek design bristling with weapons turrets and shield generators. She zoomed in on specific sections, analyzing patterns in the shield's energy signatures. What she found intrigued her. The shields weren't static barriers. They pulsed rhythmically, almost like breathing. This suggested they relied on complex, mathematical algorithms to function. "This is it," Haywa whispered excitedly to herself. "If we can disrupt those rhythms—" She glanced at Sujin Lee, who was seated nearby, typing furiously on her laptop. Sujin had hacked into the Veirathi communication network earlier in the day, intercepting fragments of code that controlled their systems. Together, they pieced together a rough blueprint of the shield algorithms. "We need more time," Sujin said, frustration evident in her voice. "Their encryption is insane." Haywan nodded grimly. Time was a luxury they didn't have. Outside, explosions rocked the city, shaking the building where they worked. Dust fell from the ceiling and alarms blared incessantly. Still, neither woman flinched. They were determined to finish what they started. Meanwhile, political tensions on Earth reached a boiling point. World leaders convened in an emergency summit, debating whether to surrender or continue fighting. Some argued that resistance was futile. The Veirathi were too powerful, and further conflict would only lead to greater destruction. Others, however, refused to give up without a fight. Among them was President Yoon Ji-un of South Korea, whose fiery speeches inspired millions around the globe. "This is not just about survival," Ji-un declared during the summit. "It's about dignity. We cannot let fear dictate our future. If we surrender now, we lose everything, not just our freedom, but our identity as a species." Her words resonated deeply, rallying support for continued resistance. Slowly, but surely, nations began pooling resources and coordinating strategies. Even countries with strained relationships set aside their differences, united by a common cause. As the hours ticked away, Haewon and Sujin finally completed their program. Dubbed Project Tempest, it was designed to inject chaotic variables into the Vairathi shield algorithms, causing them to collapse under the strain of conflicting calculations. Theoretically, it should work, but implementing it required uploading the program directly into the mothership's core system. That meant someone would have to infiltrate the heavily guarded vessel and manually input the code. Jin-Ho volunteered, immediately when he heard the plan. "I'll do it," he said without hesitation. "I've already been inside their perimeter once. I can get us there again." "No way," replied Captain Min-Soo Choi, Jin-Ho's commanding officer. "This is suicide. There has to be another way." "There isn't," Jin-Ho shot back. "If we don't try, we've already lost. Besides, I'm the best pilot you've got. You know it." After much deliberation, Captain Choi reluctantly agreed. He assembled a small team of elite soldiers to accompany Jin-Ho on the mission, including Lieutenant Na-Young Cho, a skilled engineer tasked with deploying Project Tempest. Before leaving, Na-Young gave Jin-Ho a reassuring nod. "Let's show these aliens what humans are made of," she said with quiet determination. The infiltration team launched in a stealth shuttle disguised as debris drifting toward the mothership. As they approached, Jin-Ho held his breath, praying. The Vairathi scanners wouldn't detect them. Miraculously, they slipped past the outer defenses unnoticed and docked in a maintenance bay. From there, they disembarked, weapons drawn, ready for whatever awaited them inside. The interior of the mothership was unlike anything they had ever seen. Hallways stretched endlessly in every direction, lined with glowing panels and strange symbols etched into the walls. Automated drones patrolled the corridors, their mechanical eyes scanning for intruders. Jin-Ho led the team cautiously, using hand signals to communicate silently. Every step felt heavier than the last, the weight of their mission pressing down on them. At one point, they stumbled upon a group of Vairathi soldiers guarding a critical junction. Jin-Ho signaled for his team to take cover behind a stack of crates. "We need to distract them," he whispered. Without waiting for approval, he grabbed a smoke grenade and tossed it into the hallway. Thick clouds billowed out, obscuring the guard's vision. Taking advantage of the chaos, Jin-Ho and his team sprinted past, avoiding detection. Despite their progress, danger lurked around every corner. At one point, Lieutenant Na-Young triggered an alarm by accidentally stepping on a pressure plate. Instantly, red lights flashed and the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the halls. Jin-Ho quickly devised a plan. "Split up," he ordered. "Draw them away from the core. Meet back here in 10 minutes. The team obeyed, scattering in different directions to confuse the enemy. Jin-Ho stayed behind to cover their retreat, taking out several drones with precise shots from his rifle. When the others returned, battered but alive, they pressed onward, driven by sheer willpower. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the shield generator chamber. The room was massive, filled with towering machinery, humming with energy. In the center stood a glowing console, the heart of the Vairathi defense system. Na-Young rushed forward, connecting her device to the console. "Uploading now," she said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Seconds later, warning sirens blared throughout the ship. The Vairathi had discovered the intrusion. Reinforcements poured into the chamber, surrounding the team. Jin-Ho raised his weapon, shielding Na-Young as she worked frantically to finish the upload. Bullets ricocheted off the walls, and the air grew thick with smoke and tension. "Almost done," Na-Young shouted, her voice trembling. With a final keystroke, she activated Project Tempest. The console sparked violently, and the hum of the shield generators faltered. A deafening explosion rocked the chamber, knocking everyone off their feet. When the dust settled, Jin-Ho looked up to see the shields flickering wildly before collapsing entirely. For the first time in hours, hope surged through him. They had done it. They had cracked the Vairathi's seemingly impenetrable defenses, but their victory came at a cost. The team was outnumbered and outgunned with no clear path to escape. As Vairathi soldiers closed in, Jin-Ho exchanged a glance with Na-Young. Both knew what had to be done next. They weren't going down without a fight. For now, though, Earth's forces outside had a window of opportunity. With the shields down, humanity could strike back and reclaim its destiny among the stars. The shield generator chamber was in chaos. Sparks flew from the damaged console and the air crackled with energy as the Veirathi soldiers closed in on Jinho Park and his team. Despite their exhaustion, they stood their ground, weapons raised, and hearts pounding. Jinho knew they couldn't hold out for long, but their mission was already a success. The shields were down. Now it was up to Earth's forces to seize the moment. "Everyone, fall back!" Jinho shouted over the noise. "We've done our part, let's get out of here." His voice carried authority, though inside he felt anything but confident. The odds were stacked against them and escape seemed impossible. Still, giving up wasn't an option. Not now. Not ever. Lieutenant Na Young-cho nodded sharply, her face streaked with sweat and soot. She grabbed a spare power cell from her belt and shoved it into her weapon. "I'll cover you," she said firmly. "We go." Jinho hesitated for a split second, torn between gratitude and guilt. He hated leaving anyone behind, especially someone as brave as Na Young. But time was running out and every second counted. With a reluctant nod, he signaled for the rest of the team to follow him toward the exit. They moved quickly, ducking, behind machinery and firing bursts at the advancing Veirathi to keep them at bay. Na Young stayed behind, standing her ground near the ruined console. Her hands steadied as she aimed her rifle, taking down 2 drones with precise shots. A third lunged at her, its metallic claws gleaming menacingly. She sidestepped just in time, slamming the butt of her rifle into its head. The drone crumpled to the floor, sparking wildly, but more enemies kept coming. Na Young gritted her teeth, knowing this might be the end, yet even as fear crept into her mind, she refused to let it consume her. Humanity's survival depended on her sacrifice, and she would not falter. Back in the hallway, Jinho led his team through the labyrinthine corridors of the mothership. Every step felt heavier than the last, weighed down by the knowledge that Na Young was still fighting alone. Guilt gnawed at him, but he forced himself to focus. Reaching safety meant ensuring her sacrifice wouldn't be in vain. Haiwan Kim monitored everything from Earth, her heart racing as updates streamed in from Jinho's suit sensors. She could see the dwindling life signs of his team and the rapidly approaching Veirathi reinforcements. Desperation clawed at her chest, but she pushed it aside, channeling her emotions into action. "Come on, Jinho," she whispered under her breath. "You can make it." Sujin Lee sat beside Haiwan, her fingers flying across her keyboard. She had hacked deeper into the Veirathi systems, searching for any advantage she could provide. Suddenly, her eyes widened. "I found something," she said urgently. "There's a maintenance tunnel about 50 meters ahead of their position. It leads directly to the docking bay where their shuttle is waiting." Haiwan's heart leapt. "Send the coordinates to Jinho immediately, and disable the automated turrets along the route if you can." Sujin nodded, typing furiously. Moments later, Jinho's helmet display lit up with a new path highlighted, in green. Relief washed over him, but there was no time to celebrate. The Veirathi were hot on their trail, their footsteps echoing ominously through the halls. "We're almost there," Jinho called out to his team. "Stay close and move fast." He took point, navigating the narrow passages with practiced precision. Behind him, his teammates followed closely, their breathing heavy but determined. As they neared the maintenance tunnel, a group of Veirathi soldiers blocked their path. Jinho cursed under his breath. There was no way around them, they'd have to fight their way through. Drawing a deep breath, he raised his weapon and fired, catching the first soldier off guard. The others reacted instantly, returning fire, with deadly accuracy. Bullets whizzed past Jinho's head as he dove for cover behind a fallen piece of machinery. His team scattered, taking positions wherever they could find shelter. The firefight was intense, each shot reverberating like thunder in the confined space. One of Jinho's comrades went down, clutching his leg in pain. Another dragged him to safety while continuing to return fire. Despite the chaos, Jinho's training kicked in. He assessed the situation calmly, looking for weaknesses in the enemy formation. Spotting an opening, he tossed a concussion grenade into their midst. The explosion sent shockwaves rippling through the tunnel, disorienting the Veirathi long enough for Jinho and his team to push forward. Finally, they reached the maintenance tunnel. It was dark and cramped, barely wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side. Jinho ushered his team inside, urging them to hurry. "Keep moving," he barked. "We're almost home free." Behind them, the Veirathi regrouped and gave chase. Their mechanical voices echoed through the tunnel, cold and unrelenting. Jinho glanced over his shoulder, seeing flashes of light as their weapons discharged. He picked up the pace, adrenaline fueling his movements. At the same time, Haewon and Sujin worked tirelessly to clear the path ahead. Using the data Sujin had extracted earlier, they disabled additional security measures in the tunnel, including motion detectors and hidden traps. Each successful hack brought the team closer to freedom. When Jin-Ho and his team emerged into the docking bay, relief surged through them. Their shuttle was still intact, its engines humming softly. "Get aboard," Jin-Ho ordered, helping his injured teammate climb inside. He turned to cover the entrance, firing at the pursuing Verathi until everyone was safely on board. As the shuttle lifted off, Jin-Ho looked back one last time at the mothership. Flames licked at the edges of the shield generator chamber, evidence of Na-Young's final stand. His throat tightened, but he swallowed the lump forming there. "Thank you," he murmured quietly. "We owe you everything." The shuttle sped away, dodging blasts from the Verathi fleet as it made its way back to Earth. Inside, the surviving members of the infiltration team tended to their wounds, their faces etched with exhaustion and sorrow. Though they had succeeded in their mission, the cost weighed heavily on all of them. Back on Earth, news of the shield collapse spread like wildfire. Military commanders wasted no time, launching a coordinated counterattack against the vulnerable Verathi fleet. Missiles streaked through the sky, striking targets with newfound precision. Railguns roared to life, sending waves of destruction crashing into alien ships. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity fought back with purpose and hope. President Yoon Ji-un watched the battle unfold from her command center, her expression grim but resolute. "This is our moment," she said to her advisors. "Let's show them what we're capable of." Across the globe, people gathered to watch the conflict unfold. Screens displayed images of burning Verathi vessels and triumphant human pilots. Cheers erupted in cities and towns as civilians realized the tide was turning. Against all odds, Earth was holding its own. Kale Draxus, supreme commander of the Verathi Dominion, observed the carnage from his command deck. His yellow eyes narrowed in disbelief. How had these primitive creatures managed to break through his defenses? Anger boiled within him, but beneath it lay a flicker of respect. Perhaps humans were more formidable than he had anticipated. "Order all units to retreat," Kale commanded, his voice laced with venom. "Regroup and reassess our strategy." The order came too late for many of his ships. Dozens had already been destroyed, their wreckage drifting aimlessly in orbit. Those that remained scrambled to withdraw, retreating beyond the moon's orbit to regroup. Earth's forces pursued cautiously, wary of falling into a trap. As the dust settled, Haewon slumped into her chair, physically and emotionally drained. Tears welled in her eyes as she thought of Na-Young and the countless others who had given their lives to protect humanity. Yet amidst the grief, a spark of pride burned brightly. They had faced an unimaginable threat, and they had prevailed. Jin-Ho returned to Earth shortly afterward, greeted as a hero by his fellow soldiers and civilians alike. Despite the accolades, he remained humble, deflecting praise onto his fallen comrades. "We did what we had to do," he told reporters during a brief press conference, "and we'll keep doing it until Earth is safe." For now, the immediate danger had passed. But everyone knew this was only the beginning. The Verathi wouldn't give up easily, and other threats surely lurked beyond the stars. Humanity had proven its strength, but the road ahead would be long and uncertain. Still, for the first time in days, there was reason to believe, reason to hope. Earth had risen to meet the challenge, and shown the galaxy that it would not go down without a fight. The Verathi fleet retreated beyond the moon's orbit, licking their wounds and regrouping. For the first time since their arrival, Earth's skies were quiet. The absence of alien ships hovering ominously above was almost surreal. People emerged from shelters, blinking in the sunlight, unsure if the nightmare was truly over. Yet deep down, everyone knew this was only a temporary reprieve. The invaders weren't gone. They were planning their next move. On Earth, celebrations erupted. Spontaneously, cities lit up with fireworks, and crowds gathered in streets and parks, chanting slogans of unity and defiance. Soldiers who had fought bravely against overwhelming odds were hailed as heroes. Among them was Jin-Ho Park, whose daring infiltration mission had turned the tide of the battle. Despite the adulation, Jin-Ho remained somber. He couldn't shake the memory of Lieutenant Na-Young Cho and the others who hadn't made it back. Their sacrifice weighed heavily on him, a constant reminder that victory came at a cost. Haewon Kim, too, found little joy in the moment. She sat in her lab, staring blankly at her computer screens. The glowing displays showed data streams and reports from the battlefield, but her mind was elsewhere. Images of Na Young flashed in her thoughts, her determination, her courage, her final stand aboard the Verathi mothership. Heywan clenched her fists tightly, vowing to honor her friend's memory by continuing the fight. Sujin Lee noticed Heywan's distress and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "We did what we had to do," Sujin said softly. "And because of us, Earth has a chance." Heywan nodded slowly, forcing herself to focus. There was still work to be done. The Verathi might have withdrawn for now, but they would return. And when they did, humanity needed to be ready. Together, Heywan and Sujin dove back into their research, analyzing every scrap of data they had gathered during the battle. They studied the remnants of the Verathi shield algorithms, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited further. Every detail mattered. Every discovery brought them one step closer to ensuring Earth's survival. Meanwhile, world leaders convened once again, this time to discuss the next phase of defense. President Yoon Ji-un of South Korea took charge, rallying nations to prepare for the inevitable counterattack. "This victory is not the end," she declared in a global address. "It's a beginning, a chance to show the universe that humanity will not bow to tyranny. We must strengthen our forces, fortify our defenses, and stand united." Under her leadership, resources were pooled, and efforts were coordinated on an unprecedented scale. Factories churned out weapons and equipment around the clock. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to improve Earth's outdated technology, incorporating insights gained from studying the Verathi artifact. Militaries across the globe trained rigorously, preparing soldiers for the challenges ahead. But even as humanity prepared for war, questions lingered about the true nature of the Verathi invasion. Why had they come? What did they want? And why had they targeted Earth specifically? These mysteries gnawed at Heywan, driving her to dig deeper into the artifact's secrets. Late one night, while poring over energy readings from the object, Heywan noticed something strange. Embedded within its pulsating patterns was a faint signal, a message of some kind. It wasn't written in any language she recognized, but it seemed deliberate, almost like a code waiting to be deciphered. Excited yet cautious, she called Sujin to help decode the signal. For hours, the two women worked side by side, running simulations and cross-referencing databases. Slowly but surely, fragments of the message began to emerge. What they uncovered sent chills down their spines. The artifact wasn't just a relic, it was a beacon. A call for help sent by an ancient civilization long extinct. Worse still, it contained coordinates pointing to another part of the galaxy. "Do you think the Verathi were drawn here because of this?" Sujin asked, her voice trembling. "It's possible," Heywan replied grimly. "Maybe they thought, we created it, or maybe they're after whatever it leads to." The implications were staggering. If the Verathi weren't acting alone, if someone else had manipulated them into attacking Earth, the situation was far more complex than anyone had imagined. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. It was caught in a web of galactic intrigue. While Heywan and Sujin unraveled the artifact's secrets, Jin-Ho continued training pilots for the coming conflict. His squadron became known as the Stormhawks, a nod to their role in breaking through the Verathi shields. Pilots looked up to him not just for his skill, but for his unwavering resolve. He pushed them hard, knowing that complacency could mean disaster. One evening, as Jin-Ho walked through the hangar, he spotted a young recruit sitting alone, staring at a photograph. Curious, he approached and saw that the picture showed a smiling family. "Who are they?" Jin-Ho asked gently. The recruit looked up, startled. "My parents," he replied. "They didn't make it when the Verathi attacked Seoul." Jin-Ho's heart ached for the young man. He understood the pain of loss all too well. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "But remember this. We fight so no one else has to feel that pain. Keep them in your heart, and let it fuel your determination." The recruit nodded, gratitude shining in his eyes. Moments like these reminded Jin-Ho why he kept going, to inspire hope in others just as Na Young had inspired him. Back in space, the Verathi regrouped under Kale Draxus's command. Though furious at their defeat, Kale couldn't deny the ingenuity displayed by humanity. "They're more resourceful than I expected," he admitted to his advisors. "But they're still weak. We'll crush them next time. Kale devised a new strategy, focusing on overwhelming force rather than precision tactics. He ordered reinforcements from other sectors of the galaxy, amassing a fleet larger than ever before. This time, there would be no mercy. Earth would burn. Unaware of Kale's plans, humanity pressed forward, bolstering its defenses. In secret underground facilities, engineers tested prototype weapons based on reverse-engineered Veirathi technology. One such weapon was an antimatter bomb capable of obliterating entire fleets. Though untested, it represented Earth's last resort, a desperate measure to protect the planet at all costs. President Ji-un authorized the deployment of the bomb, though reluctantly. "Let's pray we never have to use it," she told her advisors. "But if we do, let it serve as a warning to anyone who dares threaten us." Days passed and tension mounted. Everyone knew the Veirathi would return, but no one knew when or how. Then, one fateful morning, alarms blared across Earth. Sensors detected a massive fleet approaching rapidly. This time the Veirathi came in full force, their numbers dwarfing anything humanity had faced before. Military commanders sprang into action, mobilizing every available ship and soldier. Civilians were evacuated to fortified shelters, bracing for impact. Haewon and Sujin raced to complete their analysis of the artifact's signal, hoping it held answers that could turn the tide once more. Jinho led his squadron into space, ready to face the enemy head-on. As the Veirathi fleet entered Earth's orbit, Kale Draxus broadcasted a chilling ultimatum: surrender immediately, or face total annihilation. His voice boomed across communication, channels cold and unyielding. "You've delayed the inevitable," he sneered. "Now witness the true power of the Veirathi Dominion." President Ji-un responded with defiance. Standing tall in her command center, she addressed Kale directly. "Leave our planet now or suffer the consequences. Humanity does not yield." With those words, the battle began anew. Explosions lit up the sky as missiles and energy beams collided in a dazzling display of destruction. Earth's forces fought valiantly, holding their ground despite being outnumbered. Thanks to Haewon's algorithm, they managed to disrupt the Veirathi shields once more, creating openings for devastating strikes. But the invaders adapted quickly, launching waves of drones and boarding parties to overwhelm human defenses. Jinho and his squadron engaged in fierce dogfights, weaving through enemy fire with breathtaking agility. Each victory felt hollow, knowing the real danger lay in the sheer size of the Veirathi fleet. In desperation, President Ji-un gave the order to arm the antimatter bomb. Pilots scrambled to deliver it to the heart of the enemy formation. Jinho volunteered to lead the mission, knowing the risks involved. "If this works," he told his team, "we'll buy ourselves a future. If it doesn't, well, at least we'll go out swinging." As Jinho's ship approached the Veirathi flagship, alarms blared throughout the fleet. Cal realized the threat too late. With seconds to spare, Jinho activated the bomb, unleashing a cataclysmic explosion that engulfed dozens of ships. The shockwave rippled outward, scattering the remaining vessels. When the dust settled, the Veirathi fleet was in disarray. Kyle Draxus, humiliated and enraged, ordered a full retreat. Earth had proven itself unwilling to submit, and capable of inflicting catastrophic damage. For now, the immediate threat was neutralized. Humanity had won, but the scars of war ran deep. As people emerged from shelters, they gazed upward at the stars, filled with both relief and unease. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, and Earth's place within it was far from secure. Yet amidst the uncertainty, one truth stood clear. Humanity had faced extinction and refused to back down. Against all odds, Earth had struck back and shown the universe that it would not be silenced. The battle was over, but the scars it left behind were deep and lasting. Earth's skies were quiet once more, yet the silence felt heavy with unanswered questions. The Veirathi had retreated, their fleet scattered and broken by humanity's fierce retaliation. For now, the immediate threat was gone, but no one dared to believe the war was truly finished. The galaxy was vast, and the Veirathi were only one piece of a much larger puzzle. In the days following the conflict, Earth began the long process of healing. Cities that had been reduced to rubble were slowly rebuilt, brick by brick. Families mourned their loved ones, finding solace in shared grief and the knowledge that their sacrifices had not been in vain. Streets once filled with panic and fear now buzzed with determination. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger. Jinho, Park walked through the ruins of Seoul, his boots crunching against broken glass and debris. The city he had grown up in was unrecognizable, its skyline marred by toppled buildings and scorched earth. Yet amidst the destruction, there were signs of hope. Volunteers worked tirelessly to clear rubble and distribute supplies, their faces weary but resolute. Children played in makeshift shelters, laughing despite everything they had endured. Jin-ho felt a pang of pride, not just for himself, but for all of humanity. They had fought back against an enemy far more advanced, and they had won. Hey won. Kim stood beside him, her arms crossed as she surveyed the damage. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but her expression was steady. "We've come so far," she said softly. "But this isn't the end. It can't be." Jin-ho nodded. "You're right. We stopped them this time, but there will be others. We need to prepare for anything." Together they turned their attention to the future. Haewon returned to her lab, determined to unlock the secrets of the alien artifact. She and Soo-Jin Lee spent countless hours analyzing the signal embedded within its energy patterns. What they discovered was both thrilling and unsettling. The beacon wasn't just a distress call, it was also a warning. The ancient civilization that had created it had perished because of something far greater than the Veirathi. Something powerful enough to wipe out entire star systems. "This changes everything," Soo-Jin murmured, staring at the data on her screen. "If whatever destroyed them is still out there." "We'll find out soon enough," Haewon interrupted firmly. "And when we do, we'll be ready." Their findings were shared with world leaders who convened to discuss Earth's next steps. President Yoon Ji-eun addressed the Global Assembly, her voice calm but commanding. "This victory proves that humanity has earned its place among the stars," she declared. "But we cannot remain isolated. To survive, we must join the galactic community and ensure our voices are heard." Under her leadership, Earth applied for membership in the Galactic Council, a coalition of advanced species that governed interstellar affairs. The application sparked heated debate among council members. Many viewed humanity as primitive and unworthy of inclusion. Others, however, were intrigued by Earth's resilience and ingenuity. When Kale Draxus reported his defeat at HFY Story, the hands of humans, the council fell silent. Never before had a supposedly inferior species challenged one of their most feared races, and won. Earth's admittance to the Galactic Council marked a turning point in human history. For the first time, humanity took its place alongside other, intelligent beings, earning respect and admiration from former skeptics. Representatives from various nations traveled to the Council's headquarters, a massive space station orbiting a distant star. There they learned about the complexities of galactic politics, navigating alliances and rivalries while advocating for Earth's interests. Haewon and Soo-Jin accompanied the delegation, eager to share their research on the artifact. Their presentation captivated the Council, shedding light on a forgotten chapter of cosmic history. The artifact's creators, known as the Zeres, had been a highly advanced civilization that vanished mysteriously thousands of years ago. Their beacon served as both a plea for help and a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers lurking in the dark corners of the universe. As Earth integrated into galactic society, preparations continued for potential threats. Engineers developed new technologies based on insights gained from studying the Veirathi and the artifact. Military forces trained rigorously, incorporating lessons learned during the invasion. Civilians embraced a renewed sense of unity, working together to rebuild and strengthen their planet. Meanwhile, Jin-ho found himself thrust into a leadership role. His bravery during the war had made him a symbol of hope, and people looked to him for guidance. Though uncomfortable with fame, he accepted the responsibility, using his influence to inspire others. "We showed them what we're capable of," he often reminded recruits during training sessions. "Now let's show ourselves." Despite the progress, tensions lingered. Not everyone welcomed Earth's rise to prominence. Some factions within the Galactic Council viewed humanity's presence as a threat, fearing their unpredictability and resourcefulness. Whispers of sabotage and espionage spread like wildfire, forcing Earth's representatives to tread carefully. One day, Haewon uncovered evidence suggesting the Veirathi hadn't acted alone. Hidden within the artifact's signal was a secondary layer of code, one that pointed to another faction manipulating events from the shadows. This revelation sent shockwaves through the Council, raising suspicions about who or what had orchestrated the attack on Earth. President Ji-un called an emergency session to address the findings. We cannot stand divided, she urged council members. The galaxy faces challenges far greater than any single species. If we are to survive, we must work together. Her words resonated deeply, rallying support for a unified response. Earth became a key player in efforts to investigate the mysterious faction hinted at by the artifact. Teams of scientists, diplomats, and soldiers embarked on missions to explore uncharted regions of space, seeking answers to the lingering mysteries. For Haewon, Jinho, and Sujin, the journey was far from over. Each new discovery brought fresh challenges, testing their resolve and pushing them to grow. But they faced these trials with courage, knowing they were part of something bigger than themselves. Humanity had proven it could adapt, innovate, and endure, even in the face of overwhelming odds. As Earth looked toward the stars, its people carried with them the lessons of the past. They remembered the sacrifices of those who had fallen, their names etched forever in history. They remembered the battles fought and the victories won, and they remembered the promise they had made to each other, to never give up no matter how dire the circumstances. In the end, Earth's fiercest retaliation hadn't just shocked the Galactic Council into silence, it had ignited a spark of change across the galaxy. Humanity had claimed its place among the stars, not through conquest or aggression, but through resilience and unity. For better or worse, the universe would never see Earth the same way again, and so a new era began, one filled with uncertainty, danger, and boundless possibility. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but humanity was ready. After all, they had already faced extinction and refused to bow. Whatever lay beyond the horizon, Earth would meet it head-on, proving once more that even the smallest voices could echo across the cosmos.